Back to the studio once more, and today we're going to talk about the Nikon D40 and whether or not it's worth buying in 2022. Now the Nikon D40 sitting right here, all the photos that I'm going to show throughout this video were taken with this camera using a Yongnuo 50mm f1.8. The Nikon D40 6 megapixel crop sensor consumer camera. Now the Nikon D40 was released in 2006 and it shared a similar sensor with the Nikon D60, which we're going to talk a little bit about further on in the video. But is it a CCD sensor? That's going to be important. Now this camera on eBay sold items, just like in the other videos I'm going to discuss, only items that have been sold on eBay, ranges from $46, which is the lowest priced one that I could find that had been sold and was working, not a parts camera, all the way up to $700, which seemed absurd to me, but it came with a really nice lens. Most likely they paid mostly for the lens on this. Now the average price on these cameras selling on eBay is $60 to $100. Now there is a variant of the Nikon D40 called the Nikon D40X, and it is a 10 megapixel camera. That one was released in 2009. Now some of the great things that I like about the Nikon D40 is it's really when Nikon started to change things up. This is more akin to the modern DSLR body style. It is relatively the same size as the Nikon D30-200, which we have a video on up there, and it has a very lovely display screen on the back with all of your options, all of your menu, instead of up top like the Nikon D50 and the Nikon D70 and the older film Nikons. The Nikon D40 is a much smaller camera. It's a lot easier to hold on to. It's a lot lighter than the D50, the D70, the D70S, the D80, and the D90. Now, this takes a standard SD card. Now, I've gotten a lot of flack for the last video I did on this when I said you can only use like a 4 gigabyte SD card. I had issues with my SD cards. I've retested it. I have used up to a 32 gigabyte SD card in this camera now with zero issues. It is a standard single slot SD card. It is not dual slot because again, this is a consumer grade camera. Now with the Nikon D40 is a little bit annoying is all the other cameras so far have compatibility with all the other cameras I own. The Nikon D40 on the other hand takes a different style of battery altogether. I don't know what other camera uses this type of battery because the D3000 and D5000 use the same exact battery, and the D50, D70, and the D7000 series, as well as Nikon's full-frame cameras, all use the same type of battery. This battery, it's weird. Now this one does not have an internal focusing motor like the Nikon D50 and the Nikon D70 do. This one here, you have to use a lens with an internal motor in it. This camera though has the same ISO range as the D50 and the D70. It's 200 ISO through 1600 ISO, but really from the tests I've done with this camera so far, you do not want to go over 600 ISO. Above 600 ISO, it gets a little bit noisy. Now the CCD Sensor. I hope I am saying that correctly. Correct me in the comments if I am not. The CCD sensor is a broadcasting sensor used in television cameras, and it creates some of the most vibrant and beautiful colors that I have ever seen. The Nikon D40, the Nikon D60 both have that same CCD sensor. I wish Nikon would put it in another camera, but fix one of the fatal flaws. See, the Nikon D40 only has 3 focal points. So when you bring your camera up to your eye, you'll see with the Nikon D50 and the D70, you have, I'll draw it. So with the Nikon D50 and the Nikon D70, when you're looking through your viewfinder, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's the D50 and the D70. They have 5 focal points, so you can move the point of focus to any of those 5. The D50-300 and the D50-200 have a lot more. It looks more like that. And then the modern mirrorless cameras cover all of that. The Nikon D60 and the Nikon D40, though, their focusing points look like this. So your viewfinder, and you've got 1, 2, and 3. That's it. That is all the focusing points you have with the Nikon D40 and the Nikon D60s. You have 3 of them. Now, I got called out and told that that makes me a lazy photographer because I should just focus, lock the focus, change the position, and take the photo. But if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I take photos extremely quickly. I like to point and fire off, and take as many photos as I can to get the exact photo I want. So in action photography or high fashion, when someone is moving, those 3 become problematic, and I had to change up my entire photography style when I'm using this camera. Other than that, the color capture capabilities of this camera are absolutely amazing, and where this camera will absolutely shine. What makes this camera still worth buying in 2022, yes, I do believe it's still worth buying, is if you're a landscape photographer. And I'm going to share a couple of photos, landscape photos, that I took with this camera last year. The color capture capabilities and the fact that you only have 3 points of focus make this the perfect landscape camera, especially at that price point, $60 to $100. I forgot that I erased it. But $60 to $100 on average for a 6 megapixel camera that is set up for landscape photography. You're not going to be able to do a lot of low light with a decent limit at 600 ISO and a hard limit of 1600 ISO. And this is light enough that you can carry it into the field without any issue. Now, if you say, well, I want to be able to blow my photo up really large, and 6 megapixels isn't really going to allow me to do that. 6 megapixels will get you to an 8x10. If you start image stacking in Photoshop, which we've talked a lot about the importance of editing your photos, if you image stack in Photoshop, you will be completely fine getting high resolution, extremely large photos with the Nikon D40, and that's where I think that this camera shines. I do not believe that the Nikon D40 is a great portrait camera. In fact, I try not to use it for portraits as much as possible. But for landscape photography, this is always in my landscape bag. Now, generally, I take my Sony out for landscape photography, but this is always my backup. If I see a really, really colorful scene or a really beautiful area, this trumps the Sony when it comes to color capture because of that crazy CCD sensor. So Nikon really needs to put that in another camera. So yes, I believe that the Nikon D40, in the circumstances if you're looking for a lightweight, cheap landscape camera, is a good camera to buy in the year 2022, especially for its price. I would be on the lookout for them. I didn't see a lot of them listed on eBay currently. It's a pretty hardy camera, so I think people are really holding on to them because of that color capture capability. Now, if you guys liked my video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you know right when I upload. I try to upload at least once a week, and at 5,000 subscribers, I am giving away a Nikon D50 100. I have a video about that right up there, and a Yongnuo 50mm f1.8 lens to go along with it. So I want to thank you all for joining me this evening, and I'll catch you all on the flip side. Bye!